going?
Yeah.
Okay, let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Bush,
Here.
Dunn,
Here.
Hsr,
Here.
Janetka,
Here.
Skelton,
Here.
Stefas, Sullivan.
Here.
So you have some recognitions.
Just for the record, Mr. Steffes did notify me that he wouldn't be able to make it to the meeting. So he okay, recognitions.
So the first one up, Spring Solo Ensemble. If you remember a couple meetings ago, they had broken State Solo Ensemble up into two different components, partially because some of it had to be done virtually. We had a very successful Spring Solo Ensemble. This was in the area of band and high school band and choir. Sorry. They did very well. So they said congratulations to Alexis Burgett for classical vocal solo and a musical theater solo. Jasmine Cool for classical vocal solo and a musical theater solo. Marcus Cool for music theater solo. Libby Dunn for piccolo solo. Ella Fox, musical theater solo. Daniel Nordstrom, classical vocal solo. Kelly Pierce, classical vocal solo and musical theater solo. And Ellie Webb with a tuba solo. Those were all first place at the state. And second place, Daniel Nordstrom, trombone solo. And Kelsey Wilson, musical theater solo. So very good showing for the spring for our high school band and choir students. So congratulations to those students. We have two middle school students that were selected to participate in the WSMA, Wisconsin Schools Music Association, in the State Honors Program. A big congratulations to Juliana Cool and Josie Dunn, who auditioned and were accepted. They will perform in October with the State Middle School Honors Band. So congratulations to both students. Spring, we had middle school track and field. We use our own track facility as often as we can. The streets of Mineral Point, the hills work out perfect for some conditioning. I'm pleading ignorant because of my absence for a little while coming into this, so I apologize for these students not knowing this, more of this coming in. But the middle school state meet was held May 23rd in Waupun. In order to participate, athletes had to qualify in the top 30 in their events. Now, this is all the middle school students in the state. The top 6 in each event made the podium and brought home a medal. So we have congratulations to Jerry Jo Johnson for high jump. She placed 7th. Gavin Hautiger, 100-meter hurdles, placed 19th. Bree Swenson, 100-meter hurdles, placed 23rd. Eliza Ingwell, 100-meter hurdles, 18th place. Eliza Ingwell in the long jump, 15th. Ava Ingwell long jump, 25th. Lily Hotucker, 400 meters, came in 24th. Ellie Robinson in the 1600-meter, 2nd. And Ellie Robinson in the 800-meter, 3rd. Slightly outdoing her sister Annie Robinson in the 1600, who finished 3rd. And in the 800 meters, finished 4th. So Ellie and Annie will be forced to be reckoned with for another 4 years at high school, and I'm sure we'll continue to battle each other. So congratulations to our middle school track athletes. Coach Burrison is here, so I'll turn this one over to Coach Burrison.
So this year we finished in 2nd place, team academic all state in Division 4, recognized by the Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Association. It's our highest finish in 2015. We were also in 2nd place statewide. In 2014, we were in 3rd place. So really proud of our guys and what they accomplished this year, both in the classroom and on the floor through obviously an interesting year. I'd like to thank the board and the administration for guiding us through this year and giving them the opportunity.
again, this is a very challenging because this is every student that's on the varsity basketball team. You just can't handpick my starters or the top 5. This is every student. And for us to have a team GPA at 3.72, that speaks volumes to the students that are in the classroom. So congratulations, Coach Burson. And then last but not least, another state championship. We had the Mineral Point Livestock judging team of Joey Robinson, Annie Robinson, Peyton Hines, and Jimmy Tibbetts as a team placed as a state championship in the FFA Livestock or State Livestock Judging Contest. The individuals, Joey placed 5th, Annie 11th, Peyton 30th, and Jimmy 31st. So those scores combined to put our team in first place. Another state championship for the Mineral Point FFA program. Again, represents us. That's it for the recognitions.
That's great. Coach, did I see that the top 3 teams in the state were all from this area?
I believe so.
Cuba and oh no.
No, I don't think the
Spring
first place
Valley. Oh,
was.
Spring Valley.
Spring Valley, Mineral Point, Cuba City.
Okay.
Just take a note, I think that's a really good testament to the coaches that we have, not just in the boys' sports, but also in the girls' sports in this school, because most of our athletes exceed very well. And I think the coaches are holding these students very accountable. I think that speaks volumes to what we have there.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that, Gary.
Okay, next I'm looking for approval of the minutes from the regular meeting, May 10th.
I make a motion to approve the May 10th meeting minutes.
Second.
Hsr and Janetka. Which do all in favor?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that'll be fine.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, we'll have board communications received. Start here.
I think the only one I can think of is the letter we got a few days ago on the mask mandate policy. There was some questions in there, and I don't know if it's out of the realm of possibility to answer the questions, not so much in a meeting here, but if an email back from the president, if that would be fitting, just so we don't get into a he said, she said.
Totally. Yeah, I did email her back and answered all her questions to the best of my ability and roped in Mr. Wainwright and Jody as well. Yeah, thank you.
I received that email and then 2 other emails as well requesting a permanent review of the basement.
That matches with what I have. I don't think I have anything unique to add. So.
Here, nothing new.
Yeah.
Nothing new. Yeah.
Those last 2 came in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, I will admit that those last 2 I've skimmed but have not fully
Yes.
processed. So I apologize if there's
Yes, you
other
probably have.
pieces there.
Okay, citizen communications. So we can invite any member of the community to make any comments at this time, either in person or virtually. Just please state your name before you start and where you're from, and we'll limit the comments to 3 minutes per person just for the sake of time. We did have one person sign up in person, so I have Wayne Kennedy, if he's here.
Yes, Wayne Kennedy on County O. I just was concerned about the CRT, critical race theory, and what is the position of Mineral Point on the critical race theory? Are they teaching it? Are they planning on teaching it? And I just wanted some information along that line.
Okay.
I can.
You can make some brief comments, just
Yeah, there's been no discussions. There's been no discussions at this point in time with the staff as to whether or not to pursue that as a line of curriculum here in the school.
What is that? I'm sorry, I've never heard of that. Is that a bad question?
No, I would say that it kind of is trying to teach history in a kind of a more broad spectrum around how race may have played into some of the things that have taken place in our history, kind of breaking away from maybe a traditional history textbook or curriculum, and trying to pull in, some of the treatment of the minority races and kind of how that has played out throughout history. I know that there are a lot of school districts on the coast that have kind of taken that on, but that's not been any kind of topic of conversation that we've had at any point in time here in Miller Point.
Without belaboring the point, how frequently do we review like the history curriculum or the textbooks, or as a department? Is that something that's reviewed every few years, or?
Yes, I would say that's reviewed on I won't say an annual cycle, but as we start to realize, okay, some things are outdated in what we have, or there are things that have changed, then we look for different resources. We compare that to the state standards that we're being asked to instruct, and are there things that play into those state standards. So that happens, I would probably say, on an every 3-year basis, to 4 years at the most per curricular area.
I would say if anyone in the community would like to see changes to the curriculum, feel free to email the superintendent or the building principal with your suggestions. Thank you for that. Okay, anyone else want to speak in person here? Okay, and anyone online, if you want to select the raise your hand icon, you're more than welcome to speak when we call on you. I don't see any.
I'm not seeing anyone.
Okay. Great, thank you. All right, we'll move to items for information and discussion. First up is the Hsr Building Project. And Tim from Hsr is here. Thank you for coming, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it okay if I take this off the top?
Sure, that's fine.
So a little bit of update. I just came from the job site, so I apologize if I have a little bit of dust on me. If you haven't gone by there lately, a lot of things are happening over there. So the building addition is primarily complete. It's being used primarily right now for building storage. So a lot of things, all the basic classrooms, all the items in the classrooms have been moved over to the building addition. So as planned, it's very much kind of a phased project, and that phasing is working out very well. I'll show some images here, but big picture, we're month 15 of 18 months that are anticipated, so about 83% complete of overall project status at this point. The month of May, a lot of it was in transition. A lot of it was moving from the existing part of the building and moving those items over. So appreciate allowing the construction crew to really start that a little bit earlier and really work through that. So that was a great benefit, especially in the gym area, the multi-purpose room of that area. A lot of the rough-ins are starting to happen. So the mechanical, electrical, plumbing are starting to happen. I was here just a week ago, and the amount of work that's happened in just a week time frame is quite amazing, actually. The demo crew has primarily completed their demolition of the existing. The demolition was quite extensive. We'll show some images to show the extent of some of the demolition of the existing, with the main goal of having the existing portions of the building, both the 1967 era as well as the early 90s era, really match the building addition and really have that be a cohesive whole. You can start to get inklings of the overall circulation patterns within there, just really having more circular circulation. The openings between the addition and the existing are now opened up, and you can start to really get that flow that we talked about really extensively in the early design phases as well. Even on a warm day like today, the skylight in there is fully installed, and it feels great. The cooling is not operational at this point, and the glass is doing what it needs to do in that area. So we show some pictures here.
How many pane of glasses is that on the ceiling?
How many panes?
Panes, yes.
So total, or
Like layers of it.
So it's a double layered. It's a insulated panel. It also has fall protection built within it. So it's laminated glazing, and then it has 2 different coatings on it. So it has a low E coating on it, as well as film on top there to really limit the solar heat within the space itself.
Thank you.
So it's very much kind of a high performance class for that application. So a couple of images here on the right hand side, you'll see the Main Street, what we're calling that main circulation path. Obviously the skylight that we were just talking about as well. You'll see the destratification fans up top, really meant to circulate the air in that space itself. You see the stainless steel railings there, again, low maintenance, materials were chosen, really high durability, really meant to stand up the test of time. On the left-hand side, the existing cafeteria, you can see the windows that were added within there. So that was an alternate that was accepted not too long ago. I think it was a great addition to that space. It really does open that up itself. Here are some pictures of the existing renovation. So this is on the second level. What we're looking at here is the extent of the demolition. So you'll see not much of the existing portions of the building other than the structural components have remained. Again, this is on the second level, primarily gutted the space, all new electrical, all new plumbing, and all new mechanical throughout this entire space. This is on the lower level. So the lower level, this is where you had the most floor movement. So the existing floor slab was heaving kind of unpredictably in that area. So this area, we've studied it extensively up front. We studied it throughout, and we continue to study and analyze that area. So what you're actually seeing here.
That would be the main hallway down the elementary school. And the blue on the back is kind of the wall that separates the 60s building and the 90s.
Can I ask Tim, when you guys took that floor up, was it just dirt that had raised that had make that floor heave like that, or?
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah. And,
So is that a moisture thing?
Maybe let me talk to you a little bit. There's actually quite a bit going on. So during the design phase, we did explorations about 4 foot honors throughout the building to get a better understanding of the soil conditions underneath here. What we were anticipating under this, and we had some remnants of it, we found fat clay, basically expansive clay, all around the perimeter of that. We were anticipating to find that on the interior as well to really cause that type of movement. Clay itself will not move without the introduction of water. So we needed to find where that water source was. We believe the water source was actually the hillside coming down and filling up that hole. So that is still the case. We also found some secondary water sources that we are also fixing as part of the base contract with some of the sanitary lines as well that were leaking. They're old cast iron lines that were found to have ruptures in them for the air of the building. So we believe we fixed the water issue. We also, to be safe, are fixing the soil issue. So what we anticipated was 1.5 feet of removal of this area of the existing soil conditions. We also went to investigate, and we were actually on site last week, Tuesday, with our structural engineer, with the general contractor, Kramer Brothers, as well as the district representatives, and CGC, who is a third-party geotechnical engineer as well, to really evaluate the soil conditions of this space. Really trying to make sure that what we anticipated and what we planned is the right plan moving forward. So based on CGC's recommendation, we're still planning to remove 1.5 feet of fill of that area and then replacing it with clean fill at that point, and then replacing the entire slab. So what we all felt was that was great news. It was as we anticipated, and we do not anticipate any additional either time and or money to really fix and correct this issue. That's not already been accounted for. So it was a really good conversation. We did not find that fat clay in that area, so it is still a little bit baffling on why it truly happened. However, we're making a lot of provisions to make sure it doesn't happen again. So went on site, they had 2 different test pits, and we requested 2 additional test pits to just be double sure of those areas. So we all felt very comfortable. CGC has since been on site, the geotechnical engineer, and evaluated it again 2 more times after we were even on site, as the fill got removed, if anything's changed or not. And as of right now, as of 1.5 hours ago, it's all per plan. So that not only helps not only with the budget, but also the schedule as well. So we were able to keep moving forward with the schedule, and they're anticipating to pour back that floor slab next week. So a lot of, I'd say 1.5 feet, but it's 400 cubic yards of fill that they removed within that area. And then we're anticipating to bring in another 500 cubic yards and compacting it down.
Previously, we had talked about this being the area where we had the greatest potential to use additional contingency funds. Now that it feels like perhaps we can take a sigh of relief about this, what is our next potential kind of,
So
what's
always-
the next potential one that we should be losing sleep over?
I don't know if we should be losing sleep over any of them, but unknowns, the risk always gets less as you uncover things. So
Okay,
as the demolition is completed, the skeletons that may have unearthed themselves, we know about.
Okay.
There were some items even in the cafeteria. We found that the cafeteria roof drains, like I mentioned, need to be replaced. We replaced them. There was a cost to replace those. So our things still maybe going to come up. More than likely to the magnitude that this could have. No, we feel pretty comfortable.
thank you for
I
putting
know,
us at
maybe
ease.
the next slide actually talks a little bit more about the financial.
Oh, there we go, thank you.
So overall, timeframe wise, we're about 83% done. Billing wise, we're at 7.585 million of the 10.56 of that's the general contractor's bid at that point. We're on pay application number 14 for about 72% progress billing complete. We like to show that because that kind of tells you where we're at in the overall status of the project, especially financially. A lot will happen over the next few months. But we feel very comfortable with where we're at that point. Overall contingency update really is the total construction costs were at 1.45% of contract value for basically unforeseen things that have come up during construction, and we're at 1.78 for cost of rock and soil condition removal. So I separated out these, just subtract them separately. It's the same numbers that we've been showing. I've separated the poor soils from regular contingency type items. Anytime you do a building renovation, it's high risk. There's no doubt about it. But to be honest, your 1960s era building was built very well, and it will really hold up to the test of time. So that was good to hear. So,
Can you remind the board how much percentage of the total is reserved out of the budget for contingency?
I'd have to look at the exact, but we're in the 4% range,
Okay,
4.5%.
so we've got maybe an 8% or a little more left for
Yep.
contingency.
So
That's budgeted.
we did some projections kind of last week with the administration, Mitch, and we feel like we're in a good stage to complete the project. However, with still a few critical months here, I would not add any scope to the project. I do anticipate that there will be things that will come up just miscellaneous. One item that we're talking about today is when we pulled away the perimeter, we found that the existing installation that's in the soffit probably should be replaced. It's from 1960, half it's in, half it's out. So that'll be an item that So I'd say it's still relatively tight for this stage of the project, but at the same time, a little bit of side relief as well.
So more of the contingency we planned for is kind of what we got. Wasn't much worse than you were.
Correct. So where we had some flexibility was on, say, the furniture project. We didn't allocate all the furniture funds because we just didn't quite know how this conversation would play out.
Questions for Tim?
It's good,
Comments?
Mitch.
Okay,
Additional updates from me.
So we got the audio back on, so can you repeat your presentation?
But overall, no, it's progressing very well over there. Thanks for coming, Tim. Yeah, it's looking good.
and we will post, these images will be posted on the website, yeah.
Great. Next is budget updates.
So you have the copy of the May 2020 and the May 2021 budgets before you. At this point, a year ago, I would shift from what's been expended to what remains in the budget. If you look, we'd spent about 83% of the budget through May. A year ago, there's about 17% left. And if you look at May 21, we've used about 78% of the budget, with about 22% still available. There will be some bills that you'll approve next month that wrap up this fiscal year. But right now, we're anticipating that there will be some additional funds left over. I would, at that point in time, recommend that you would put those into the Fund 46 account as well.
There is a line item, it's line item 8 on the 2021 budget that's interfund something, and it's only 3.4% used. It's about $1 million item. You provide any direction or any information around what that particular one is?
That's the 10 to 27 transfer. I believe so, yes.
Okay.
So every year we transfer over $1 million from our general fund, Fund 10, to our special education fund, Fund 27. So when the fiscal year is done, that money will be, I won't say it will all be spent out, but that will be part of that transfer from Fund 10 to Fund 27.
Any questions or comments about that?
Yeah, so for the non-capital line. But this time last year we spent almost all of it, but this year we only spent 66%. What is that line for?
That might be for things like some of the classroom supplies, not big ticket items like, oh, we got to replace a boiler, like a capital project. So, due to the nature of the school year, there could be some funds left over in that account at the end of the fiscal year.
Any questions? Okay, next is board tour of the elementary school. Some board members were interested in getting the tour, so Mitch and I talked about maybe putting it on the agenda just to not only take a look at the new edition in its kind of semi-finished form, but look at how the reconstruction of the old edition is going. Mitch, any thoughts on what might work out, or do you want to do that over email, or?
We can certainly try to set something up through email. Typically, they're done 3:30-ish on a regular basis, but I could would set something up with Eric so that if like a 5 o'clock or a 5:30 or 6, if that time of the evening works out better for everyone for a tour, I would set something up with Eric that we could get into the building. And then as Tim said, kind of the flow from the new to the old, you'll get a good sense of that getting into the building and realizing, oh, here's where they cut out. Now I see how when students are dropped off on Front Street, they can come in that north entrance, and if they're a 3rd, 4th, or 5th grader, they can stay upstairs, go right to that level. There's students won't have to be going up and down steps as much as they would have in the past. You can walk down the bowl, get in the building, and then maybe have to walk upstairs. So there are some ways that kind of we'll be able to see the flow, traffic flow within the building. So if there's some dates that you know in your own personal calendar, stay away from. Otherwise, I can send out some suggestions by email.
It sounds like it's going to be dicey with vacations and other times, but maybe the next few weeks or something.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone has any.
I can, my schedule is extremely flexible. I can work whatever.
That's good.
Okay, I will send out an email and we can hammer down a date. I will work with Eric then to make sure we have access to the site after hours.
Okay, thank you. Next is a possible board retreat. I know that we had met as a board a couple summers ago, just to kind of take stock of the year and talk about kind of overarching goals for the upcoming year. And so if you guys aren't opposed, I'd like to make that kind of routine as long as we can make that work with our schedules, just to kind of take a step back and meet in a less formal environment. Again, we don't have to set a date tonight, but just wanted to give you guys a heads up and just let the public know that we'll be meeting informally to just kind of review the year and talk about goals for next year and things we can do to be the best board we can be the best district we can be. So I'll send something out and we can get something set up offsite. Of course, that'll be it'll be a quorum, so Mitch, that would be published as an open meeting, and location and time would all be shared with the public.
I don't know that setting goals would constitute a major action item, so it could, a meeting where there's no intention to take action on any kind of school business, but yes, it would have to be published because you wouldn't have a quorum.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to action items. First is approval of the preliminary budget.
I'm gonna, I guess, make a motion to table this pending a finance, due to the nature of emergencies. The finance committee wasn't able to parse the budget like we generally do prior to recommending approval. Specifically with it currently sitting at a deficit, certainly wouldn't be prudent to just pass a deficit without digging into it. And so I would make a motion that we table this until the special meeting on the 30th. Then we would have a finance committee meeting on the 29th to kind of dig in. I'm going to get some more information from the JFC. They're supposed to be meeting Wednesday, Thursday this week. We may have some more answers on the extra revenue, Hsr type money. And may actually dig into the numbers like you do on an annual basis before just blanket approving the budget.
So, you making a motion to table this action item?
Until the June 30th special.
Okay. So we've got a motion to table
Second.
action item number 1, and I need a second. Okay, Bob seconds. just for sake of discussion, I mean, and so anyone watching, can make sense of what's going on. So first thing is, our current budget has us at a net deficit at $191,000. So the finance committee hasn't met to kind of figure out how we would balance that budget to get that deficit down to zero. And Mr. Bush is the chair of the finance committee and recommends that the finance committee meet and come up with some budget adjustments to get that down close to zero. Is that accurate, Andy?
Yes, or at least identify
The issues.
what it is, and if we determine that it's all necessary, or if it's waiting for the JFC to come through, we'll be able to at least present why it's the way it does, and then whether or not we suggest approval.
So that's the second issue, is the uncertainties around the state budget and what revenues we should anticipate for next year. And the JFC is the Joint Finance Committee with the state legislature that's basically making kind of final proposals to the budget in terms of educational funding. And you said they're meeting this week?
There's supposed to be potentially final voting on Thursday.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Then it has to go to both houses.
Yeah.
They both have to approve the same language in the budget bill, and then it goes to the governor. So I don't know that I anticipate seeing anything in the very near future, and we'll have an idea, probably a little bit more clear picture from what Joint Finance Committee is proposing for the state budget in terms of educational spending. Right now, it's not very favorable for schools, but we'll see what happens.
Do we have a deadline? We need to have a preliminary budget approved by a certain date,
We
right?
typically ask for that so that if there are things that we know we need to have for the start of the school year, having the preliminary budget approved allows us to make those purchases.
Okay.
Right now, I've asked every building administrator to make sure that they vet each PO that would come in and to guarantee or ensure that it is something that is necessary for the start of the school year, but that will stay on hold until any kind of a preliminary budget would be approved. October is when we set the levy. That's when the budget has to be finalized. It's at the end of October.
What is the right now date of your finance committee meeting?
It'd be June 29th.
We got a special meeting on the 30th.
Yeah,
Well,
which
do we have a special meeting? I guess I didn't have it on my calendar. Do we have?
No,
it?
He's
did not-
proposing.
Oh, you're proposing, that's
He's
part of the
proposing
proposal.
that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I was like, if we scheduled that, I missed it, so we'll put that on my list.
Any other discussion on table it and why
Makes sense.
it's recommended table it? Yeah.
Do we need a second on the motion, sir?
No, we have a second. We're just in discussion now before we vote. Okay, call the vote. Eugene?
Bush,
yes,
Hsr,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Publicly?
Yes. Somebody else. Thank you.
Back,
Audio's back?
it's back.
Okay.
I don't know what's causing the problem, so I apologize.
Okay. Can you clarify a little bit more what the health department recommended at your last meeting and what you might be recommending as an administration?
I was unable to attend the last Iowa County Health meeting, but I'd asked Nurse Lindsay to attend, and she had shared out an email with a letter to all school board members that the recommendation was to have our younger students continue to wear masks while inside the school. That came from Iowa County Health. I know I've had conversations with different building level administrators. Elementary principal, Mr. Renwick, was unable to attend tonight, but he had shared with me that he would be in support of those younger students wearing a mask inside the school. Again, I think coming around like the vaccination, the ability to be vaccinated. So that would kind of be the recommendation coming from Mr. Renwick, yes.
Okay. The email from Nurse Lindsay on May 21st, was that after the meeting with the health department?
The one I have is from June 2nd.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Jane.
Hi.
You sent an email on May 21st about the summer saying that from talking to the health department, public health guidelines for masking and social distancing in schools remain the same as they have throughout the 2021 school year. The new guidance indicating those who are fully vaccinated did not even wear a mask around others did not apply for schools at this time.
Correct. I haven't heard anything different since then. But of course I'll continue to attend the meetings, but that was the latest.
I just want to clarify, was that on June 2nd though? I have it on June 2nd, just because it seems like things change every week. I want to make sure we're looking at the right.
I have a June 2nd email as well.
Yeah, June 2nd was the last meeting, I think.
That had been the last Iowa County Health meeting, the first Wednesday of the month.
So something that I'm trying to wrap my head around is that up to this point, we have talked about those children under 12 being the least susceptible to COVID. So they are not spreading it. And if they do come in contact with it, they are not experiencing the level of symptoms that older populations are. And we are very fortunate to be in a place where anybody above the age of 12 is able to get a vaccine. There are no longer waiting lines. It's not a financial issue. You just need to get yourself to a medical provider and they will get you a vaccine. So I'm gonna need some convincing here to stay with the mask mandate. So if somebody feels like, I'm hearing what the county health, what the recommendation is, but I'm not sure I'm there. So I would love for somebody to persuade me otherwise.
This is my take on it. If people who are vaccinated or if parents want to send their children to school and want them to wear masks or if staff want to wear masks, that is their choice. I respect that.
Yes.
No problem. That being said, in my opinion, what this is a power trip from our county nurse. And I'm sick of power trips, right? I'm not going to take recommendations from someone who has stood there and cost us 27 kids leaving this district from her recommendations and cost us a pile of money. And what this is going to be is if this gets passed tonight, then the start of school year, they're going to say, well, we want masks for the school year too. If you do that again, kids are going to leave. And it's our job as a board to not let that happen. I would say I agree with both. Like Joni, I like how you put it. To me, there's just no data that supports continuing the policy.
So I sit here fully vaccinated tonight. And I've been out in public in other situations where I haven't worn a mask. I am wearing this mask tonight because our policy is that we will wear masks in school. But if we approve this, my mask is coming off and I won't think twice about it. So that's where I'm at.
We get kids that'll leave this school, summer school, go to daycare and not have a mask. And the parents got to explain, well, why do I got to wear a mask at school, but I can't wear one there. That's happened all year long.
So I would like to make a motion that we revoke policy, let me grab the policy number. We revoke policy 44311 and we replace it with some sort of recommendation or at parents' discretion or at individuals' discretion that masks are encouraged or masks are, I don't have the wordsmithing there. Optional. Masks are optional and welcome. I would not discourage anybody from wearing one. That was a really awfully worded.
You can always use the WIAA verbiage, strongly recommend.
I would be okay with strongly recommending them even.
Is it just for summer school or?
I'm of the opinion that going forward, and unless we see a situation change again, and if something were to happen, we will be back in this room having different conversations.
So you would like to repeal
Repeal, yes.
board policy 443.11.
I'll second that.
Who's second?
Kelly. Any other discussion?
Yeah, reading this, and I know I wasn't at the meeting, Nurse Lindsay, but in the email, it makes no mention that children under, anything special about children under 12. It only talks about the best recommendation being that schools providing in-person instruction should prioritize two prevention strategies. One is universal and correct use of masks, and the other is physical distancing. I don't see where it says under 12, and I understand this concept of, that you're not able to get vaccinated. And I understand the belief that we should let each parent make the decision for their own children. However, with infectious disease, that's not how it works. I'm no expert on infectious disease, but as I understand, it's not necessarily just to protect me, it's also to protect everyone else. So if we have fire sprinklers in the building that we never use, we're just happy that they're there and they're safe. Masks, likewise, can protect for things that we may not be able to account for or be able to predict accurately for the future. So I personally believe it's something we should probably review monthly. At this point, it feels like, but I think right now it's too early to end the mask requirement.
Mr. Bush?
I have essentially been in the situation or the thought process that Bob's been in, but I believe we're now in a state where everybody who has chosen to get vaccinated has had the opportunity. And those are the people that we have talked about protecting. This is it's not necessarily, the data didn't show the kids were getting it, but kids were going home, and kids were around grandparents, and we were protecting the community. And the community at this point has had the opportunity, if it has so chosen, to become vaccinated. The other piece I have at this point is, when we're posting pictures online of classrooms and there's 4 or 5 unmasked students, when we sit here tonight and we're not enforcing our mask policy, it just needs to go. Because it's no longer effective, and in my opinion, it's no longer needed.
I do think I agree on that last piece. If we continue it, it does need to be enforced because it's not appropriate otherwise. It's like prohibition. It becomes actually affecting but providing the opposite of the intended.
So the Iowa County Health Department last published their their public dashboard on June 4th, or the vaccine data that is available is on June 4th. And it states, we know based on other diseases that herd immunity is likely at least 60% or more of the variants are common. Basically, we're targeting vaccination range of 60 to 90%. And right now we're at 55.7% as of a week ago, had at least one dose, but our elderly populations are 65 and up. Those numbers are at 88 and 90%. So I feel like we're there.
Grandpa and grandma are protected.
Yes, to Andy's point, anybody who wanted to take that level or that approach to their protection has had an opportunity to do so.
Well, thanks everyone for your input. I mean, I think these are all great points, and they've been good points all the way through. First thing I want to do is share comments from Larry Steffes, board member. He said, I will not be able to attend tonight's meeting. On the agenda item regarding the mask policy, I fully support the elimination of the mask policy. I believe the parents should be making this decision regarding their children's health. I think it is dangerous to have the kids wear masks during sports and open gyms, especially given how hot it has been. Many local schools are making masks optional, and it's becoming less common to see masks worn anywhere. Please feel free to share my comments during open session. Okay, so that's from Mr. Steffes. He does not have an official vote tonight, but I feel like his opinion should be heard by the board. I would also like to share just an excerpt from the letter from the Wisconsin Department of Health Services that was referenced by Nurse Lindsay, and is what the county nurse is basing her recommendations on. I won't bore you with the entire letter, but this is dated May 18th, and there's been no updates since then. So the highlights are as follows. All students, teachers, school administrators, and staff, regardless of vaccination status, should continue to practice physical distancing and wear masks at school and on the school bus until more people, including children, have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. We need to continue to protect those who are not fully vaccinated, including young children who are not yet eligible for a vaccine. Regardless of vaccination status, disease prevention strategies should continue, such as hand washing, staying home, getting a COVID-19 test if you have symptoms. Schools should also continue frequent cleaning and disinfection of highly touched surface areas. Isolation and quarantine practices remain effective as necessary strategies to decrease the transmission of COVID-19 in schools. I'll stop there. So, I think everyone makes really good points about cases being low. I feel like we're getting to a good place. The highly vulnerable are more vaccinated. It seems natural to discontinue the requirement this time. I think those are all good points. I think, in my profession, these recommendations from health departments, especially from the state level, are made by colleagues of mine that have been studying this since its inception. I mean, this is their job. This is what they do, and they understand how it spreads, how it transmits, who's at risk of transmitting it, etc. And this is the recommendation for schools across the state. Simply because cases across the state are not at a level where it's felt comfortable to remove all precautions, and the vaccination rate is not high enough to where we feel like unvaccinated people are sufficiently protected without any additional precautions. So, I feel like, and then I think about, well, what if we repeal the policy? Okay, so I believe if we repeal the policy and have kids sitting next to each other unmasked, I think it does increase the risk slightly of kids testing positive. And, based on current isolation and quarantine strategies, that means an increased risk of kids being sent home, being put into virtual learning, and disrupting a quality education. I know all of us want to minimize virtual learning as much as possible, and I think if we can do everything we can to minimize cases, quarantines killed kids, killed athletes, as far as missing events, kids stayed home for weeks so they wouldn't miss prom and miss other important sporting events because they were afraid of the quarantine. And I think that if we have kids that, are unvaccinated and not taking precautions, I think we increase the risk of spread in the school. Does it increase the risk of death, and hospitalization? Probably not. But the goal of what we're trying to do as a society is we're trying to get the spread down to zero, right? We're trying to get to a situation where someone with COVID walks in a room and it has no place to spread to because everyone's immune, right? Or sufficiently protected in some way. And, getting close to 50% vaccination, even though our county is doing really good compared to a lot of other places, I'm going to have to side with, the public health experts to say that we're not quite ready to do this. So that's where I'm at, and I apologize for the long-winded answer, but there's a lot of issues that's right.
To that date of May 18th in that letter, the school did offer vaccinations to kids.
Correct.
And I have no idea the numbers in my business, but for those students who wanted to be vaccinated, it was on the table, whether they chose to take advantage of it or not.
That was anybody 12 on up.
Yep.
And Jane might be able to speak to it a little bit more numbers wise. Was it about 80 students, Jane, on the 19th of May?
It was, but again, anyone under 12 didn't have that opportunity.
Just had their second vaccination last week, Thursday, for the drive-through clinics.
So, if not now, so two things. One, I've been hearing the state recommendation, and I think about our larger population centers, about Madison, about Milwaukee, about Green Bay. So that recommendation coming from the state health department is all encompassing. Is our situation unique? Our population is just lower. Not that we don't have a lot of people traveling in on vacations and going to more populated areas, but we do have less people, less population density. Does that matter? And then if not now, when? If I would say if we don't repeal this tonight, I'm going to ask that it be on the agenda again if we meet on the 30th. And part of that is we're referencing a communication that's a month old now, and things thankfully things keep improving. So
I think you make a great point, Joni, and I think that if there was a threshold that the state health department was comfortable with, like for example, let's say your county case rate is this or lower, maybe you don't need to wear a mask, or if your vaccination rate is this or higher, you don't need to wear a mask. I'm hopeful that over the next couple months, we'll get to a point where maybe we can have some better data to set some parameters that can make us feel more comfortable. Like, for example, let's say the vaccination rate in the county is 65% instead of 50%, and a case positivity rate of say under 3% or something like that. I think that those kind of parameters are what would be really helpful for us to say, okay, we can remove precautions. And I think that's what the whole country is looking for. You know what I mean? Is, we made a big step with fully vaccinated people and mask requirements, but when can we just, drop the whole thing and say that the risk is so low, there's going to be cases here and there, but the risk is so low that we don't need to impose anything universally for people, right? And I think we're getting close, and I would be in favor of looking at it month to month because I think that it's definitely a rapidly evolving issue. And if anyone's paying attention right now, I would say the best way to eliminate any precautions with COVID is to get vaccinated. And, even if you've had COVID before, and I know that, that may not be what everyone's comfortable with. And I hope that as millions and millions and millions of more people get vaccinated and do okay with it, that we'll be a little more comfortable, and hopefully it'll get approved as just a general vaccine and not for emergency use only. But that's the best way for any community to move on completely, is to get the vaccination rate up. So that's my plug there. Okay.
Nurse Lindsay, are you still on the phone?
I am.
Was it the county health department or the state health department going to be meeting soon, I thought, to look at recommendations for the fall?
So it's not going to be, I don't think there was going to be a July meeting. Let me see. I have July 7th down, but I'd have to double check with that. I know they had talked about, I feel maybe it is July 7th. I could definitely confirm. I'm sorry, I believe I have it on my calendar as July 7th, but I don't want to give you the wrong information.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just meant just as when we might expect more information.
Yeah. I know that we'll be meeting before, I know it's either early August or it was July. So I know that doesn't help for summer school.
I have July 7th as the Iowa County meeting.
Yep.
There might be the statewide meeting, might be also that, but I only have that county level meeting.
Right. Oh yeah, so, yep, and then the August one was moved to the 11th.
And so what's the current thinking on when kids under 12 would be open to the vaccination? Clinical trials we need to talk about?
Oh yeah, they're undergoing right now.
Okay.
So they're going down as low as 6 months age. So I think that the hope is maybe by September that there'll be approval for 6 months to 12 years. It's not going to be anytime soon, I don't think. I think what you're going to see is potentially more vaccines approved down to 12 years old. And, I think there were good points made about how families wouldn't want, I think that there are some families that would be uncomfortable with an optional mask policy, just as some families would be uncomfortable with a universal mask policy. I think we need to keep in mind both sides. Remember that a lot of kids were virtual all year because some families have real fears of this disease. And, if we're not going to offer virtual next year as an optional educational choice, that means, we potentially would be forcing kids into school under, without following recommended precautions from the health department. And what does that say about this district? So I think you can look at both sides of that as far as where families might choose to send their kids.
Are all of the other schools in our area fully under a mask policy still? Do we know?
I am not aware of anybody that's gone had this meeting where they have had the conversation whether or not to remove theirs or make them optional. And again, I apologize for being
But that's
kind of out of the loop here for a little bit, but I have not heard anybody say that.
I think Belmont has removed theirs.
Okay.
Possibly Darlington. I don't know about Highland. I'd be lying if I said anything. The other schools in the area, I don't know anything about.
I believe River Valley has just.
Yeah, I just saw that. I did see that.
Yeah, River Valley has gone to optional, and Dodgeville's voting tonight.
We sent that question off to CISA and have not heard back from them regarding whatever districts.
Okay.
What do we have going on in the school between now and the 30th?
There's some, like I said, there's some students here for extended year or some potential makeup opportunities.
Yeah, we have middle school students here. It's basically an extra session, summer school, just for middle school kids. And then there is, summer school conditioning.
Well, I'll share, what's going through my head right now is I'm not sure. I'm thinking we might be a hung vote, a 3-3 vote tonight, and I'm wondering if I should withdraw my motion and ask that we table this and meet on the 30th.
I said we go with the vote. We wasted a half an hour discussing. All right, go with the vote.
Then I will stop.
I agree with Gary. I think we should just go with the vote, but I get your point. Any other comments on discussion before we call the vote? Okay, Angie, so you want to read the motion again, please?
Repeal policy number 443.11, replace with verbiage that masks are optional / welcome. Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
No.
Building,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Dunn,
No. Okay. Motion passes.
I thank you all for, I felt like that was a very productive conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, let me go back on the agenda here.
Approval of the fee schedule.
Approval of the fee schedule.
So attached in your board books, you have a copy. In essence, it's the same fee schedule we used a year ago. There are no increases, no recommended changes. There is a season pass for all regular home events that's been added. Cost for someone wishing to purchase a season pass would be $120. That would be for every home event, varsity home event. Conference, well, non-conference conference, no tournament games.
Fall and winter.
Fall and winter sports seasons. I would point out school lunch fees. There's no change to school lunch. U.S. Department of Ag has continued for another school year, offering free lunch for all students. And the Mineral Point School District is going to take advantage of that. So our students, a regular lunch, a regular breakfast will be free to our students. Anybody picking up a la carte or an extra milk will be charged for those things, but the main meal will be free of charge to our students again for next year.
and parents have the ability to shut off that a la carte feature if they so choose.
So I'm asking, the fee schedule approval is a yearly thing, so I would ask for approval of our fee schedule as presented.
I'll make the motion to approve the fee schedule as presented.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Sullivan, Janetka. Any discussion on the fee schedule?
Just out of curiosity, do we have any MacBooks left in circulation?
We were able to collect them all. They're being updated. If you remember, you approved a PO months ago so that we would get our Chromebooks.
But we can't get them.
We're
Yeah.
still looking for those Chromebooks to show up.
Well,
So we might be handing back out some of those MacBooks to start this school year, but yes, we will be replacing the MacBooks.
So if those come in, do we just take this
The insurance option off, yeah, I would,
off or
And that is
word that differently?
That is
Chromebooks
optional.
that have an
Yeah.
insurance
through the lease company,
option?
or is that through the school?
through the school.
So could we just turn that into
We would,
Chromebook insurance?
One on one
no,
device?
because of the Chromebook cases that we're buying with the Chromebooks, they come with all the protection, so it's,
So they're already protected.
yeah, they would already be, so any kind of damage is going to be replaced and fixed at no cost because of the cases that will be purchased.
So is that something, is that $150 fee something we as a school could absorb? And I know our budget's already in a deficit, but I'm thinking if I'm a student who already got handed an old computer And now you're telling me, and I have to pay the $150 insurance, like,
It's completely optional. If the MacBook were to die,
mhm.
then we would just replace it. This is what we run into more often is the cracked screen piece that comes in and.
But if you had given me one of the new Chromebooks, I would have been covered. So I feel like I'm getting the short end of the stick twice. I got the old computer and the $150 insurance if I'm worried about it. I'm just.
Right, if you were worried about it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would say, you know, when we know that the MacBooks are no longer, I would just delete that line item out of our school fees.
But for now, probably safest to keep it in.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, Angie, call the vote.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Hsr,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Skelding,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, next is credit card statement of activity and approval of bills payable. No major concerns or questions. I'll take a motion to.
Study the bills like Andy probably would say. I don't want to make the motion.
That's
I'll
okay.
make a motion to approve.
All right.
the whole.
Both the credit card statement and the bills payable. Okay. Any second to that motion?
I'll second it.
You're doing great.
I know, I got it.
Any discussion, comments?
Just a lot of larger ticket renewals. I know we approved the line wire last time for the, but basically the educational program approvals are all built in the budget or.
Correct, yeah.
or
Yeah.
Coming out of the tail end of last year's budget.
Yeah, out of this current fiscal year. We don't start the next fiscal year till July 1, so yes.
So there's no major item here that wasn't already approved.
Correct,
Yeah, budget approval.
correct.
For several months in a row, I've noticed we have the Bug Tesla internet fees going through this.
Yeah.
And it just seems, is that something that we would normally pay through a credit card expenditure rather than a direct bill?
It is for the options
Is
school.
that way
Yeah.
okay, but it just caught my eye.
Mitch, can you explain the JAMF software for 9800?
JAMF is, what's the best way to try to explain it? It is through the tech budget, and it allows them to manage all of the devices remotely, so they can push out software updates. They can make sure that the programs are there, so like when we get close to testing time, they can make sure that the state testing software packages on everybody's individual units. So that is like a hardware management package that Dependable Solution builds into their budget on a unit basis.
Okay.
That's an annual bill.
Yes,
So it's in addition to our monthly fee, we pay Dependable Solutions.
that is for the year. That JAMF buys us a year's
Right.
subscription basically to it. But
Right.
yes, we pay Dependable on a monthly basis. That
Plus this software
is once for the year.
for the year, and it's in the tech budget.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion, questions? Angie, call the vote, please.
Bush,
Yes.
Hsr,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Skelding,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
So an update to the next meeting. The next meeting will be June 30, 6:30.
No, yeah, June. The finance committee meeting. June
29.
What time is your meeting?
6:30. Better not be early too.
Then after that, it will be June or July 12th, sorry.
Anything else board members want to, for the parking lot or anything? But if you want anything on the next agenda, just email me. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I will make the motion to adjourn. I'll second it.
Oh, Justin, that guy.
It's gonna be 8 o'clock. They never got that done.
8:01.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to adjourning the meeting? Okay, meeting's adjourned.
That clock is slow. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for attending online.